I'm Julie Baumgardner, and this is the Marriage on the Daily podcast, the podcast designed to give you tools and encouragement to help you do married well on the daily. Because after all, it isn't the grand gestures that make or break your marriage. It's actually what you do or don't do on the daily that either builds a strong foundation or chips away at your core. You can do this, and I'm here to help. Welcome to the Marriage on the Daily podcast. I'm your host, Julie Baumgardner. I am so excited about the conversation that we are going to have today. And I will tell you, it does not matter how old you are. This is a really important conversation. And I would say it's every bit as important for women as it is for their husbands. So buckle your seatbelts because this is going to be interesting. My guest today is Dr. Tricia McClelland, also known as Tricia. She is a board-certified OB-GYN with nearly 30 years of experience, focused on helping women navigate midlife and menopause. And I'm just going to stop there for a second and say, if you're not in midlife yet, don't tune out, because we're going to talk about what you need to know before you hit midlife. So Tricia helps women understand their symptoms as signals and how to use those signals to personalize an approach that actually improves how you feel. And what I love about this conversation is that I've had so many women say to me, I am scared. I don't know what is going on with my body. I know my personality is changing. I know my emotions are different. My husband is looking at me like I have three heads and I don't know what to do about it. And so Tricia is here to actually help us. She is married to Matt. They've been married for 22 years. They have a son, Walker, and their other important family member is Tucker, their golden retriever, who is besties with our golden retriever, Eloise. And I think he's supervising this conversation today. So welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I love what you said, because one of the most common things women will tell me is, I don't feel like myself. And if you don't feel like yourself, other people see that. And they are seeing that disconnect as well. And they have just as many questions as you do. They just might have different questions. A lot of times they do. But what's so fascinating, and I'm so glad that you mentioned at the beginning that you don't have to be midlife for this to resonate at all, because you and I, first of all, don't know exactly what midlife is for each one of us. And what's happening in our body is not an exact time frame. So a lot of times what's happening is women are noticing shifts in their body. They're noticing more fatigue, sleep isn't as restful, they may be more moody or irritable. Another common thing they notice is they're gaining weight and their nutrition and their exercise hasn't changed. These physiologic changes are, I think a great word is colliding. These are colliding with increase in responsibilities, families, maybe aging parents, maybe job changes, colliding with lifestyle habits that are just not really working very well. And for some of us, also colliding with big changes in our self-concept. We're seeing empty nest. Our kids are launching. Maybe our jobs are changing. So all of these things are colliding. And I think probably the most important thing is to stop and pause. To stop and pause. Do you know why?
Please tell us.
Well, we're all unique. We're all amazing, unique humans. And you really need to start out with that filter. That's probably the most important filter, is we're all amazingly beautiful human beings. We have physical parts, spiritual parts, emotional parts, and each one of us is unique in what areas are affected and then what symptoms we have. So you could have 10 women with the exact same symptoms, but different things going on in their body. And so just a quick one size fits all approach sounds good, is easy to read, but just mostly leads to frustration because it's really hard to implement. And so that's what's so challenging is I don't think that we, in our culture, we pause long enough. We don't, something happens and then we react. Something happens and then we react. And we're not taking enough time to say what exactly is going on. And then how do I respond most effectively? And we're going to come up with some ideas, and they may be good, they may not be good, but you don't know if they're not good if you haven't thought to do them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Or if you're just scared. I mean,
Scared, yes.
when I have women talk to me and they're saying, my husband's upset with me. I'm upset with me because I don't know why I'm so easily agitated. I don't know why I'm so emotional. It's very frustrating. And I think there's fear of the change that's happening.
Right. And then sometimes when you're having that conversation, the person that's the loudest has found some solutions for themselves. And there's no space to explore if those solutions help you. But this one person in the group, this worked for them. So they're like all fired up. Everybody else should try X. And it's funny because I find that for a lot of women to actually be kind of shaming and disempowering because, oh, wow, something must be wrong with me because that quick fix didn't work. Or I tried it once and I just can't continue doing it. And so sometimes I think it would be super helpful as we talk through our own stuff that we're mindful and we give space to the people around us to have different experiences. And I don't know does that resonate for you?
Absolutely. And it just makes me think about we are all on a journey here, and it's just like there's no cookie cutter. I can give you certain foundational principles for marriage. However, your marriage is your marriage and mine is mine, and it isn't cookie cutter. We are on a journey, and I would say the same applies for what you're talking about in terms of midlife and dealing with menopause.
So I think when I think about some of the big physiologic changes that seem like personality changes, and most women aren't changing personalities. Most. Okay. A lot of times women are noticing that they have less resilience. They have less stress tolerance. They used to hold 20 balls in the air. Now they can hold 15. Sleep, energy is off. And a really big thing that is incredibly annoying for most women is brain fog. Mm-hmm. They're forgetful. They lose words. And it's also annoying for other people around them. So, for instance, I'm going to blame the fact that I just had surgery. My husband came outside and he said, I'm not driving. He said, I'm going to go take your car and do an oil change. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And he walked inside, and a friend of mine was out here, and he walked out, maybe 30 minutes later, and he said, I'll see you later. And I'm like, where are you going? And he said, are you trying to mess with me?
That was the anesthesia. I feel certain.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to blame anesthesia on this one. But what was so funny about that is I had the perspective of thinking, here I am, here he is doing something nice for me. He tells me He's off to do it, and I've totally forgotten. I mean, that's a little bit dismissive. If you think of it, that feels dismissive.
Yeah.
And so I laughed and I said, well, other times I could blame it on something else, but today I really believe it's the anesthesia.
I'm with you.
Very much the anesthesia.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bunch of hormone systems that we don't always pay attention to, but are really what's happening under the surface. So you have your autonomic nervous system. I'm going to get a little geeky for a second, but I can't help it.
Okay.
There's the autonomic nervous system, which is your fight, flight, or freeze, versus your rest and digest. I suggest that this is an issue for most women because that's the norm for our society. We all can handle short bursts of stress, but it requires rest and regrouping for us to be able to maintain our stress response. Another common issue that's happening during this time is just changes in sleep patterns. And I think we all know that the moment you don't sleep for one night, you are different the next day.
That'll preach.
Everything about you is different.
Yes.
If I stay up all night on call, I'm an extremely healthy eater, but you show me some sweets, I'm all in. And then it makes me feel worse. Other things that can change are definitely hormonal fluctuations. A big issue can be blood sugar balance, even gut health, even thyroid balance. So there's all these systems underneath the surface that are very interconnected. And if one of them is off, they can knock all the rest of them off. And then symptoms may look similar, but different symptoms are involved.
So I'm just thinking, I mean, if somebody is listening and they're going, yes, yeah, all that plus weight gain. I mean, I am resonating with everything. What then? Like, what do you do with all of that as you're trying to figure out the way forward?
So can I give you an example?
I would love that.
Okay. So I think we don't spend enough time on digging into what is happening. We jump very quickly to try to fix it. I'm the same way. We're all the same way. So I'll give you an example. Recently, I had a patient come in. She was in her 40s, and she said, I'm having hot flashes all the time. I'm having mood swings, irritability. I'm not sleeping well. I have hot flashes at night. And my coworkers are telling me that I'm not that easy to work with right now. And so I asked her to keep 2 to 3 months of a symptom diary where she kept her symptoms, her period, her nutrition and exercise, and just put it down on a diary and see if she can see patterns. We checked some lab work on her. She was also pre-diabetic, insulin resistant. So I said to her, out of all of those things, pay special attention to your carb and alcohol intake. And she came back 2 to 3 months later. And remember, she had said she was having these symptoms all the time. She came back and she said, well, these symptoms really are actually just about 5 to 7 days before my period. And what happens is I first get carb cravings, so I eat more carbs. Then I'm a little more irritable, difficult to wind down. So when I come home at night, instead of a rare glass of wine, I'm having 2. And then I'm having night sweats. I wake up tired. And so instead of 1 cup of coffee, I was having 2 to 3. And oh, by the way, because I also gained 10 pounds, I stopped eating breakfast, but I forgot to tell you that last time. And I found that in my morning meetings with coworkers, it's not very smooth. And so she said, she goes, it's kind of funny because I wanted to prove you wrong. I wanted I thought this was all hormonal and I needed hormones. So I thought before my next visit, I'm going to totally prove you wrong. So she stopped sweets cold turkey. She cut out alcohol. She made sure she only had 1 cup of coffee. Those changes alone improved her symptoms by 60-70%.
Wow. Wow.
Those alone.
That's dramatic.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Now, the next patient could have a very similar set of symptoms, and we noticed that supplements make a difference. Or another patient tried all of that, was very hesitant about being on medications, finally tried a medication for those 5 to 7 days, and she was 90% better. And then what was fascinating about her was she said, my bad symptoms are only 5 to 7 days, but they are so bad that I am miserable for the 2 weeks before that, stressing about these happening.
Yeah. Anticipating.
And one of the things that, probably the main thing that led her to choose medications, is because her relationship with her husband was getting really bad. Because she basically checked out for 10 days a week, didn't go to work, didn't do anything, wouldn't do anything. And she was like, I said, what do you think? She goes, I need everything better, and I really need that better. So if you have a partner that is fun loving, enjoys stuff, who is willing to talk to you, and they check out for 10 days a month, that does not improve relationships.
No.
And the interesting thing is, once she started feeling better, now this is key. Once she started feeling better, and she started telling her husband more of what was going on. Do you know what he told her?
What?
He said, instead of feeling like part of the problem, I became part of the solution.
Oh, and I actually was going to ask you, like, what can husbands do? Because I do think they feel like they're part of the problem. And I think they feel very much at a loss. Like, I have no earthly idea how to be helpful to you. And so I love that he came back and actually said that now that you've shared with me, I feel like I'm part of the solution. That's powerful.
Well, she felt well enough at that point to bring her curiosity and creative problem-solving mind to that.
Yeah.
And so part of the resolution was, what for them was some simple task shifting.
Yeah.
Either shifting it totally off her plate, or him doing something during that period of time. Yeah. I think one reason why we misunderstand it, first of all, I don't think we have enough understanding about midlife and menopause. And I think that we're in a culture of quick fixes. And so a lot of people get lost in the shuffle. Plus, it also depends on who you go seek help from. And so I think, back to my point earlier, we are spiritual, emotional, physical beings. If you recognize you have some relationship issues and you go to your pastor, then their first lens is the spiritual lens.
For sure.
If you go to a therapist, their first lens is emotional or relational. Yeah. And if you come to me first, then I am going to look at the physical. And what I think is important is to recognize where your lens may not be the most helpful, and where another lens can be more helpful. I'll give an example. I'll give you two examples. About 15 years ago, this is two different women, but two women going through a divorce. And there was one of them was being counseled by a pastor. And I asked her, I said, do you mind if I just call the pastor? We will not talk about you, but just some general conversation about some of the physical changes women can have during midlife. And he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't talk to me. I said, I'm not talking about a specific person. I'm just talking about general. Around the same time, I had a similar patient who was seeing a therapist, and the therapist recommended she go on an SSRI. And
What is that?
that's like Prozac, sertraline. And it wasn't the wrong answer. It was definitely not the wrong answer. But I asked the patient, I said, have you told her that you are not controlling your blood sugars with your diabetes? And you're not really taking your thyroid medication? And she said, well, how does that matter? I said, well, it really matters. It really matters. And I said, do you mind if I call your therapist? And she signed the release, and I talked to the therapist, and I said, the SSRI, the Prozac may be very beneficial, but it's not going to do anything or very little until she controls her blood sugars dramatically. So I'm going to suggest we set a 3-month window where she go back to the dietitian, she go back to her primary care physician, and in 3 months, let's regroup. So I told the therapist was like, oh, thank you for that. That is wonderful. This is so great. I love this. And so we set that time frame for this young lady, and the depression and anxiety improved by about 50%. Now, ultimately, she did start Prozac, and she improved 90%. But I think she got her best solution. And the other thing that was probably the most important thing for her is she saw how controlling her blood sugars impacted herself and those around her.
It just makes me think everything's connected to everything.
Everything's connected.
Everything is connected. And you can't just look at one thing without looking at all of the others.
Oh, yeah. And I think an openness to understand that there's parts that we don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think that is so incredibly valuable for all of us.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
So, I mean, I think you've touched on this a little bit, but I am really curious, because what I hear you saying is, hey, pay attention to your body, pay attention to what it's telling you, pay attention to what you are doing that could be impactful to how you're feeling. And so I'm thinking about women who are younger, not to this place yet where they're experiencing all of these signals. And are there things that women can do in their earlier years, in their 20s, 30s, early 40s, that can actually help them later in life by doing them now?
Absolutely. What I love about that question is the framework that I use is an integrative approach where I'm looking at the combination of lifestyle changes and then medical therapies.
Yeah.
And when I think about the lifestyle changes, I'm looking at nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress resiliency, and thoughtful use of supplements. So I'm going to hold off on any comments about medical therapies because that's way too general. But for example, if you think about nutrition, the best diet to support female hormones, female health, best health, hands down, is a Mediterranean-based diet. And a Mediterranean-based diet is essentially lean meats, vegetarian sources of protein, limiting simple carbs, mostly whole foods, and healthy fat.
Yeah.
So if you are in your 20s and you are gaining weight, that's the way you should eat. If you're in your early 30s, you're having issues with fertility, that's the way you should eat. If I could give you every example. And so the 45-year-old who is perimenopausal, struggling with some of the symptoms we discussed earlier, I would give the same suggestions for the 20-year-old just based on eating healthy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is good, I like to compare our bodies to being a car, except that we are far more resilient. So if I decided not to do any of the oil changes, upkeep, and I put water in in the gas tank instead of gas, it's going to stop immediately. Our car has very little resilience. Mm-hmm. The problem is our bodies are incredibly resilient. So a lot of women, they come in with symptoms, but it's really the 20 years of not eating, eating mostly carbs and mostly processed foods. So it's not the processed foods and carbs that they ate for the last week. It's the 25 years. Yeah. It's not the fact that you didn't exercise once or twice this week. It's the fact that the last 20 years, there's no consistent movement, especially not with strength training. And I think, have you ever heard of the quote, self-care is not a selfish act. It is only taking care of the one thing that you have to offer others. And I think depending on what your background is, self-care can seem very selfish.
Well, yeah. I'm just thinking that in relationships, a lot of times, especially women will say, oh, I don't have time for that. I feel guilty for that because I have so much going on. And yet what you don't have, you can't pass on.
Correct. But so I'll give you another example. I had a patient coming in with, she was perimenopausal, everything we've kind of talked about. She's feeling bad and she doesn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. And so I asked her for a symptom calendar and we did lab work, but I also agreed. I said, one thing that I can tell right away is you're trying to put 28 hours of stuff into a 24-hour day.
I mean, I don't know anybody who'd try and do that.
That would be everybody. So after a long conversation, so this is a woman who still had 3 teenagers at home. Ooh. It was very clear that she did everything for them. She made the bed. She did their laundry. Nobody helped clean up after dinner. And so I gave her 2 suggestions. I've got 2 suggestions for you. Number 1 is tell them you're not cleaning up their rooms. You're not doing any of that. If they want their sheets, washed, it happens Tuesday morning. Bring them up Tuesday morning. And don't do it for them. And the second thing I told her is why not have everybody help clean up the dishes and the common area after dinner. And that in and of itself added 30 minutes to her day. Another thing that changed was she anytime somebody wanted something from the grocery store or she hadn't thought about dinner, she was stopping at the grocery store. And so she stopped at the grocery store she probably stopped 4, maybe sometimes 5 times a week. So I told her, I said, choose to go to the grocery store twice a week. Make it non-negotiable. And it doesn't matter, just you got to make it non-negotiable. Even if it hurts you, make it non-negotiable. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to start keeping some sort of grocery list.
Yeah.
And when she made that non-negotiable, two funny things happened. One of them is she saved about 2 hours a week.
Wow. Hello.
And on the days where she told her family she wasn't stopping, guess what? Her kids started stopping.
There you go.
And she said, she's told me, she goes, the game changer was when one of them texted me, Mom, is there anything you need at the grocery store?
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
So I would have been doing her a disservice if I had said, let's do these 5 things because that's going to fix it. She had no space. She had no bandwidth to figure out how to do that. So she first had to create space in her life in order to have the bandwidth, first of all, to be able to pause.
Yeah.
And secondly, come up with a doable response.
Yeah.
Instead of a quick reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
But isn't that interesting?
I was just going to say that is so interesting. And I think if you had just said, hey, you just need to make some changes in your day, I'm not sure any of us would be able to say, oh, well, I could totally do something different over here or over here. It took some guidance to be able to make some changes, and the difference. Wow, that's dramatic.
I also think it's important to remember that how I approached this young lady, in the way I approached her, I did ask for permission if we could dig on some of these things, because sometimes our first response is to feel ashamed or feel denial, and really there's no judgment.
No.
I was like, I'm not coming you. I'm coming with. I said, I'm thinking of this as a spreadsheet of tasks you have on your to-do list and which ones are easy to hand to somebody else. So there's no judgment. I work full time, and it was funny I call it the COVID. When it was during the COVID, everybody was home. I asked my son to start something for dinner, and he couldn't do anything. And I was appalled, not at him, but at myself. And I was like, buddy, you're going off to college in a couple years. You have to be able to do something. And this is totally my fault. And so I taught him how to grill. And the first couple times I did that, yes, it took a lot longer. Yeah. But do you know how much fun we had?
Oh, I love that.
And the laughter. And I told him after he had gone off to school, I said, one of the reasons why I loved having you help me clean up and do some things in the kitchen every now and again is, yeah, it saved me a little bit of time, but we connected.
Yeah.
We did something together, and you can take that with you going, oh, wow, I can help my mom clean up. Mm-hmm. That's not hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, this is all so good. I feel like we could spend so much more time. I just want to kind of boil it down a little bit and say what I have heard you say is that, one, when you're young, pay attention. And even though you may not be, You may be able to eat all the carbs and do all the things and not be gaining weight. Just because it's not impacting you now doesn't mean it won't be impactful to you later in life. So it really is important to pay attention to taking care of yourself, exercising, and eating right early on in preparation for later in life. And that when you get to that later in life point where you are feeling changes, I think the word that I would take away from our conversation today is hopeful and encouraging.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That
I
there are
love
things you can do.
Right. Now, two things. One of them is not really a plug for myself, but I'm going to give a plug. I am actually writing a book on this.
I was going to mention that, so I'm glad you did.
And I've completed the manuscript. And at this point, figuring out next steps with publishing.
Yeah.
And part of this, I am also going to start a blog using Substack and then pushing that out to LinkedIn and Instagram, because this is the one thing that does not serve most women is to just give a one size fits
It's all.
all.
Yeah.
And yes, it takes a little bit more time to think about these things and figure out what resonates for you. But you're getting two benefits. One of them is it's a short-term benefit of feeling better. And if you feel better, your relationships are better.
Yes, for sure.
Now, if you feel better and your relationship still has some issues, okay, there's things to work on. So looking at the physical side is not about making excuses.
Yeah.
It's looking for root causes.
Yeah.
And so not only are you feeling better right now, you are also changing the trajectory for the rest of your life.
Yes, which is so important. And we will definitely have your blog on the website. And as soon as the book gets published, we'll add it so that people can access the resources. So I ask everybody this question, and I'm really curious for how you're going to answer this. But if you could say one practical thing that you would encourage couples to do on the daily that you think could be impactful to their marriage, what would you encourage them to do?
Can I tell you what I do?
Of course.
Okay. Every morning, almost no matter what, I have my quiet time. And I feel that that is an incredibly important reset with prayer. Even if I've been up all night, even if I'm in the hospital, it might be very, very quick, but I really try to do that. And then I ask myself 3 questions on mindset for the day. Number 1 is, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? Because that is going to impact my day. The second thing I ask myself is, am I shoving 28 hours of stuff in a 24-hour day? And the answer is most of the time. Most of the time. But at least I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But the key, and I think thinking about those 2 things, and then the third question is, if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? So what I love about, I think what is brilliant about that question, and I would love to tell you I made that up, but I did not. The brilliance of that is I am not giving value judgment to the thing. Yeah. So if I have been up all night, I'm tired, and somebody asks me to do something wonderful, the answer is going to be no. Most of the time. If everything is great, I'm feeling well, then something comes up last second, I am more likely to say yes. And so those things, what I love about those questions is it's asking me, who I am, where I am. It's mindful of the context of being a spiritual, emotional, physical being.
Yes.
And then how can I thrive? If I know those boundaries, then I am more likely to thrive.
Yeah.
And guess what? If I'm in a better mood and I am creating healthier space, that is much better for my spouse and everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That is awesome. I think we can put that into practice. So thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your passion and for all the thought that you have put into this. I think it is a really important topic, and we will for sure have you back again to talk further about other issues that are definitely impactful to us as women and to our marriage. And thank you all for listening to this conversation. As I said, we will definitely add Tricia's resources to the website. You can find other resources and updates at marriageonthedaily.com. If this podcast episode was helpful to you, I wish you would share it. I think there's a lot of people out there who are experiencing a great deal of difficulty when it comes to midlife, menopause, and relationship issues. So share away. That would be awesome. And until next time, remember, it's the little things that matter on the daily in your marriage.